Hey everybody, our guests today are two very special people, Dr. Roy Alabado and Michelle Christo. They're both in the healthcare field, Roy as a professor at a college and also a healthcare consultant and academic practitioner. Michelle is a graduate with a degree in psychology, and she's also a certified national drug and alcohol interventionist. She has an organization called A New Way of Life Intervention Services. And most importantly to both of them, they're both great parents, and they're traversing that road of parenting as single parents with not, I would say, a pleasant divorce, not unlike many, many, many of you that listen to my show. So take a listen, hear what they have to say. I'm really excited about this show. We don't have something that devoted to just this on the network and get that male-female perspective. So I'm really excited to introduce them to you and hopefully have any of you that are interested pick up their new show, Parallel Singlehood. I'm not the house of cards that falls down easily. I'm strong enough to handle what you throw at me. Welcome to Mental Health News Radio. I'm your host, Kristin Sunanta Walker. Just what are we going to discuss? The intimacy that is mental health. Let's continue to make it as comfortable as discussing brain health or heart health. This show has been on the air for several years, and we have amazing co-hosts. And then we created a network of podcasters on mentalhealthnewsradionetwork.com, a place where every possible facet of mental well-being can be talked about openly. My show, after several hundred interviews, the format is this: intimate, deep, funny, touching, sometimes uncomfortable, but always vulnerable conversations with interesting people. The goal is to have you, our listening family, many of you who have become my good friends, feel as though you are listening in on private conversations. Thank you for tuning in and becoming part of this amazing journey with me, and now with our network of podcasters. Just knowing this podcast might be helping any of you realize you are not alone on this journey called being a human being makes doing this podcast worth every second. After all, we promised we'd be cordial. Hey everybody, Kristin Walker here. We have finally people that are going to come on and talk about the joys of single parenthood. I'm so excited about this. I'm excited about this for the network. It's a new podcast called Parallel Singlehood, and I love it. We have Roy and Michelle here, which you just heard about what it is they do. Roy, thank you so much for, again, coming on the show. And Michelle, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So both of you are in the medical field, as our listeners just found out. Both single, clearly. I don't know what you're going to call the show when you're not anymore, but that's a whole other thing. But why?
We put the sing and single.
Yeah. Yeah. So Roy, talk to me first, from your perspective, because we had a very impassioned conversation about this after we did your show on managed care organizations for our business series. What prompted you to really want to have a voice in, being a single parent, a busy doctor, a career person, all those things?
It was really, it came because through my divorce. And so the world is also experiencing what I've experienced, just being divorced and then taking care of a 3-year-old kid. And so I thought that everybody would experience the pain and also the joy of what it's like to be single and going through trauma, through a divorce, and then the aftermath of like trying to take care of a child.
Yes, and have a career and all of those things on top of it, and a career in healthcare, which is a more demanding place to be as well. How about you, Michelle?
So my daughter is 3 years old, and from the moment that she was born, I was facing challenges left and right with really not expecting to be a single parent and being thrown into it, and the whirlwind of just giving birth and the emotions that go along with it, both confusing and joyful. And the step-by-step of what I went through with my child custody case was what they call the trifecta of child custody, which just sounds confusing. It very, very much so was. And I remember feeling very, very alone. Even the friends that I thought would support me, a lot of them have, and I'm very grateful for those people. But a lot of people had turned their backs from me, and my world just changed very abruptly and quickly with equal parts of confusion and the joys. And I feel it's necessary to definitely open up this conversation for other parents who might be 3 years in the past where I've already been, or where Roy has been himself as well. And I think for the both of us, we can open up the conversation of male and female perspectives, because I think we always think our perspective is the only perspective,
Right.
but there's a lot that goes on that we don't see and we have to understand.
Explain what you mean by the trifecta of cases.
Oh, it's intense. I can give you examples, and I don't, obviously this is my point of view, and I respect her father at this point that he has his point of view. But they wanted my child, they, meaning his entire family, wanted to have, after she was born, a week on and a week off. So she was fresh out of my womb. They wanted visitations immediately. There was violence involved in the past. And it was a very, very sticky situation.
Gotcha.
Entirely.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm glad that you were okay with going into more detail about it, because I think about that too. While I don't want to deny any father at all, and here we have Roy on, who is a father, from being around their child, I also think about, well, I nursed my son, and I can't even fathom like what that would have been like. And I have a friend who had twins, and she had to stop nursing her children before it was recommended because of that kind of a custody arrangement. So there's a whole lot that goes into these things that people don't necessarily kind of think about, the brass tacks that go in, or the realities that go into those kind of situations.
Right. And I think sometimes, and I'm only speaking from the woman's perspective because that's where I'm coming from, I think we have it set in our minds that it's 10, 20 years ago where the mother gets all of the rights.
Right.
And, it was a learning process during that situation, and still every day, obviously being a mother and father is the biggest role that you can ever have. But I think it's important for people to understand, how somebody treats you in a relationship, whether it's your ex or your current spouse, isn't necessarily how they treat the children. And that's I think the biggest thing is really getting people to understand that.
Right, right. Roy, how was it for you with being a father who, wanted more custody, or if not full custody?
Yeah. On the contrary, I have my child, Bronson, 55% than my ex-wife. And my situation was different because it's normative because of infidelity. And so she started all this, and I just I needed to leave.
Just smack in the face. Like, you didn't expect the change.
Yeah. My best friend told me, he said, Roy, he goes, you can't make someone love you. And it just clicked. And I said, I'm done. And so I had to leave, and it was a lot less painful. The painful part was trying to take care of this boy who was 3 and trying to survive, because it was just really stressful.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we talked about, I'm sorry, it made me think of during our conversation, because I was a single parent for a couple of years, about 3 years. And it was really interesting to go through all the stuff that you go through. And then your whole life is it has to be focused on your child. I mean, it has to be because it's your child, but also all the drama and chaos and trauma that's coming up from the situation you're in. And then all of a sudden you have to hand this child over to someone that you've got some, big time animosity with, but you're trying to rise above. There's a million different things. And I remember just like saying goodbye, and then laying on the floor next to my couch. And I don't know that I even got him to go to the bathroom until he came home 2 days later. So
that's the worst feeling in the world.
Yeah. And I wanted to, it's between him and his mom. It's me and his mom. And so he has nothing to do with it. We just have to take care of him. And I wanted him to be healthy. And so I had to deal with the stress and hide, the stress and hide the anger when I was with him. So I think a lot of parents deal with that because they mask the anger, the mask, the issues. And then when they have time with their kids, I wanted to just, embrace his time and his love and just, and joke around and be a dad and be close to him. And that's why we have such a great relationship.
Yeah. And it's not easy to do that because we're not made of stone.
Right. I think in the opposite too, not everybody out there is doing it the right way and, masking the anger. And I can't say that masking the anger is the right thing either, but some people aren't capable of withholding the anger. They might, say something in front of the child that has long-term repercussions. And that's something that we have to talk about as well, is that there are moments where masking the anger is not good. There's other ways of coping with it. And then just full out allowing the anger present in front of your child or, treating your ex that way in front of your child is completely unhealthy too.
Yeah. Michelle and I were talking last night. I was like, when I talk to my ex, it's business. Did he poop? Did he do his homework? Did he take his allergy medicine? Can we have our clothes back? You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's all about business. It's not like, hey, how are you doing? You look great.
Right.
It's not like that. It's pure business. And so, I don't know. I'm just like that. And I think, a lot of parents feel the same way, but I think, I don't know about you, Michelle. Is it different?
For me, it is business and I have to keep it business-like because otherwise he thinks that we're best friends and there's too much damage that's been done. And for me personally, and I can give an example, on Sunday when he dropped her off, he said, he was conversating with her, conversating with my dog, and not conversating with me. And so I'm like, I keep quiet and I let it, but it was almost like an epiphany had went off in his head. And he was like, wow, like I just disrespected her. And I think it's pivotal to do that in front of our daughter because it gives her some sort of indication that she can, be disrespectful maybe to mommy too. So I almost have to get better at keeping it business-like because I am, some people would call me a sucker. I allow him into my home. I allow him to come over and do the pumpkin painting, not for me, obviously, but for our daughter, Emma. She deserves to see us getting along to a certain extent, but then there's also, times where stuff like that happens on Sunday where I'm like a brick wall, like where I'm here. Hello.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so, oh man, it is so difficult to.
God bless America.
Yeah, exactly. I don't even know. Now I'm friends with my child's father, but my God, did it take a long. It's been 33 years. So it's been, 15 years since, well, anyway, we made it to this place and our son sees that now as an adult, but he's 30. It is tough. It is really, really freaking hard. And it's hard to have to like pretend that everything's okay when it's not. It so goes against your entire modus operandi,
Mm-hmm.
So when
it throws your equilibrium off.
Yeah, exactly. What do you do? Let's start with you, Roy. What do you do to mitigate falling into just becoming such a good pretender that it starts to spill into other areas of your life?
I keep preoccupied. The times where I miss him, because one thing is, you have to drop your kids off, right? And then all of a sudden, what do? Right? What do you do? So I keep preoccupied. I was writing articles. We do martial arts. Yoga has helped so much. You go out with friends. I travel a lot. One thing I did was I climbed Mount Kilimanjaro last year. And a part of it was just the experience it's a spiritual awakening, right?
Right.
But I wanted to forgive her during that time. And I tried and I tried. And I was like, I'm going to forgive her when I get back. And then when I come back, I'm like, shit, I hate you still.
You know what? Forgiveness is a multi-layered journey that I don't believe at all in the whole, oh, I've forgiven and now I don't get angry anymore. It's not how it works.
You like that one, Kristin, huh?
I love that. I mean, that's why I want you guys to do this show too, because especially now it's, the holidays are coming like right on our heels, and the new year and all that stuff that goes into the new year. Let things go and oh my God, it's really hard and that's like time that you have to deal with not only, the other parent, but also their family. And oh yeah, super fun. Michelle,
Yeah.
what are you thinking?
In regards to the holidays?
Well, just in regards to what we're talking about, the whole forgiveness thing of Roy coming back and going, I still
See, I am like one of the most forgiving people. So, and I learned at a young age that, sometimes forgiveness is for the other person. Sometimes it's for yourself. And I don't like karma or sticky stuff. So I try to forgive and move forward because I believe that, in a moment, everybody makes a decision that they think is best. And although it might not be because, other people react to it or have a reaction to what that action is to originate, I think it's important to just let things go. So I do have a Buddhist mindset when it comes to my daughter's father. There are moments, like you said, I think it's multi-layered. It's like an onion. Right. So there are days where I'm just moving forward and being positive about stuff with our daughter. And then in the back of my mind, I'll think to myself, like the other day, I thought to myself, there are things that he had done that, sometimes because time has gone by, I forgot about it. But I'm like, who the hell does this to someone else?
Right.
But it happened to me, and it's part of my design now, but I don't let it supersede my day to day. I have to push it aside to a certain degree.
I wanted to say something. A part of forgiveness is forgiving, right? So the war has settled, right? But then, things like the things that put a thorn in your side constantly, that they repeat because behavior is repeated, calling up the weekends and they don't answer the phone. I'm like, really? Or, pulling things like, when it comes to like divorces, it's usually the battle is between time and money. And things like, his karate belt's up. Well, I've been paying karate for so long and it's unequal. Can you pay for his karate belt? Oh, we don't have the money. Really? But you can go on vacation. And those things like just trigger the anger again. It's like, you know what? I'm okay. I'm all right with you. Things have been quiet. And then those things come up and it's just like, it's a non-ending cycle.
It's a constant way. And believe me, I do not say this to make light in any way, because I've been through all this too. It's just for me, like the only way for me to make sense of some of the things that have gone on even this year, not to do with parenting. I have to go with that same, like, how do people behave this way? Like what? That kind of stuff. I go, okay, this is another lesson for me in patience. And,
Kristin, I have a story to tell you.
Yeah, go for it.
So when I was going through a divorce, I had a dinner. Our professors had a dinner, like a dinner party. And so my part was to buy wine. So I bought like 4 bottles of wine, right? And I put it in my fridge and I said, don't drink this because I have a party to go to. So I come back like a day after and all the wine's gone. I go, where's the wine? We don't know. Well, I live here and I didn't drink the wine, and Bronson lives here and he's 3. I don't think he drank the wine. Who drank the wine? And that's the kind of crap that kills you.
Insulting your intelligence. Yeah.
Oh my God, we have to call the police because someone stole the wine.
Yeah.
And that's the stuff that triggers. So how do you forgive someone who keeps doing stuff like that?
There's takers and there's givers. That's how you have to chalk it up in my mind. She's a taker.
She was a giver, trust me, but she's a liar. How's that? Right.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't. I have such a different perspective on stuff just being this far out on it. So I'm gonna shut up because I don't have any wisdom other than somehow you get through it, and not everybody gets to be friends with their ex. And I don't mean like gets as in that's like a wonderful thing to be. Sometimes you got to leave, and you got to leave freaking roadkill as you leave, So but I love that you guys will talk about this. And the best part about doing shows like these and doing a podcast about this is because people don't necessarily want to hear your sage wisdom. They want to hear all the stuff you're going through so that they don't feel so alone in what they're going through.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. We're out there for you.
You are not alone.
Well, let me ask you one more question, because I know the kind of things that you guys are going to want to get into, and let's talk about that a little bit too, about what you want to get into on your show. But before we go there, for both of you, how have you handled in certain ways the demands of your careers? I mean, you both have active careers in the healthcare profession, which is more demanding than many kind of a field. So how have you managed that with all of this as well? Do you think that the stress of that kind of helps distract you from some of this other stuff that would otherwise drive you beyond the point of crazy?
For me personally, as an interventionist for substance use disorder, because I have a consistent schedule with Emma now, I'm able to, every other weekend when she's with her father, that is when I do get down and to the nitty gritty of an intervention. So she's with her father. On the opposite weekends, unless it's a full-on emergency where life or death, somebody needs to have an intervention done, I will not take the time away from her. Typically, I am 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I mean, my phone sleeps with me, next to me on my pillow for families that are going through what they're going through. But I did have to get to a point where I put certain boundaries on it. And it got to a point where I said to myself, okay, well, let's be realistic. If it's a real true emergency at, 6 o'clock in the evening, they should be calling 911. That's the reality. If it was a situation like that. So from 5 to 8 o'clock at night, while Emma and I are eating dinner and getting home from daycare, that is our time together. I do not rob her from that anymore, but it used to be very difficult for me because the families that I meet, I've become very intertwined with them. And so it was tough for me to shut it off. But for her sake, I have now gotten us in a good routine of knowing from 5 to 8 o'clock, no one call, if they do call, I'm not running to my phone to answer it. It's right. My focus is on her.
So maybe there's a ability, I noticed this when you're so stressed out, like there is a certain ability to just be compartmentalized and push things out because there's just so much of it that you have to. So in a way, sometimes when you're dealing with that kind of stuff and you're also a single parent, it's in a not way that you'd want it to be, but helpful. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And you have to put things in little compartments and store it away for a little while and get back to it, because it's like what you said earlier. Otherwise, it starts trickling into other aspects of your life. And, when I was really going through the child custody case, it was trickling into every aspect of my life, my friendships, my job. People, I would just talk about it all the time because it was all consuming, until I started to go and see a professional myself. And I was able to then have somebody and not talk about it and bring the anxiety into my family or my friendships or my work environment. And I think that most of the time it can be a healthy thing. Sometimes it's not, but it all does kind of balance out once you get a niche for it.
Yeah, that makes total sense. How about you, Roy?
I'm a lot more structured. So the weekends I do have him, it's we set up things to do. In the summers, and he knows his expectations. I'm like, so Friday night we're gonna go this. We go to happy hour and get happy hour prices and eat there and hang out with our friends, and then we go to the movies. And then Saturday mornings we have yoga and he has karate, and then we go to the beaches, and then we do whatever. And then Sundays we stay home and we watch movies and we watch football. But the times I do have him, and it's busy. It's so, I'm a mover and a shaker. Like yesterday, it's like you get out of work, we got to go to karate, and then we got to go to a fundraiser at McDonald's. And then after McDonald's, we got to go to Trader Joe's. And after Trader Joe's, we got to go to this, Target. And then all of a sudden you go to Target and then you get home and he says, Dad, I gotta bring M&Ms because it's the 50s party tomorrow. I'm like, really? And then we have to go back to Target, and then we get
spend
home,
another $1,000 that you weren't expecting to spend. But what
right?
Target.
So that's how it is. It's running. You're always running. You're running, and then there's the days I don't have him. I do things for me. And I do self-care, and I go away on vacations, and we both go away on vacations. So it's this balance. It's balance. It's the yin and the yang. It's, you play hard and you work hard. You party like a pirate, but then, you work like a captain, right?
Right. Well, then I'd say for your show, the two of you are going to be just talking about the day in and the day out of this. Are there any people in particular that you're thinking about you want to interview?
I was thinking about this. I want to interview kids and their perspectives on how they're living. I want to interview like single parents and what they're doing and our commonality or our differences.
Excellent.
I think it's important to include some sort of psychologist or expert in the field when it comes to, again, we're single parents. You don't know until you're thrown into it. Well, am I making the right choices? Am I expressing it the right way? For example, to my, 3-year-old daughter, like what's her language and how do I get, to a point where I can express it to her so it's in a healthy manner? There's times where she brings up like a question about heaven. Well, what's heaven? And, what's the right way to describe it? I think it's important for us to, at some point, talk to an expert out in the field with, the sand play therapy, or somebody who can speak on what children have experienced and what we can do to be better parents, because that's the goal at the end of the day. And none of us have all the answers. I think we tend to think we do, but it's a learning process. And, even when our children are grown, we're learning more and more about them and ourselves. So continue that growth.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, very true. And I was thinking as you were talking, Michelle, the piece about, well, what do you do too with your child when your, former partner has a whole different explanation for something like what is heaven, and your child, you're not on the same page there, and your child comes to you and says, but this is what daddy told me or mommy told me, and this is what you told, and how to just help them understand that.
Come to their own understanding. Absolutely.
Yeah. Like there are differences. My father was a diehard atheist. My mother did not want to deal with anything to do with religion, but she did believe in God. And so I had very opposite things. And so it was more that I needed.
And that's my daughter.
Yeah.
My daughter's like you, Kristin, where her father's an atheist and I am agnostic because I'm not wise enough to know, but I do know my life experiences and, the universe is my God. But, I do think about that impact on my daughter. So maybe you can shed some light at one point one day. We'll sit down and have a private talk.
Sure, absolutely. It's more the only thing I can say now that may be wise and maybe not, but I would have loved a conversation, a very practical conversation that is age appropriate, obviously, around different people believe different things, and that's okay, because I feel like that prepares you for the world. I was very practical with my son about some things, like, okay, well, that's this and this is that, and you get to decide what is right for you, and that may change as you get older. Just kind of like real practical stuff. And it got to the point where he would go to I took him to different religious things and non-religious things, and he got to a place where he was like, this resonates with me and this doesn't. And I felt like it helped him make his own decisions and come to his own understanding of things. Whether that's good or bad, I do not know, but that worked for me.
Right. And I'll tell you a funny story. A couple of weeks ago, I'm laying in bed with my daughter, and, my daughter does have a good understanding that there's, a 3-year-old understanding of, that there are other religions. And she said to me, Mama, I just really miss Jesus Christ. And I'm like, how does she know about Jesus? What's going on right now? And she's like, he's in heaven, but I just really miss him. And I'm like, well, you never met him, but I help understand. Some people believe in Jesus Christ and some people do not. And, you can learn about that when you get older. But yeah, 3-year-old, I miss Jesus Christ.
I know. I'll tell you this. My son went to this church with me, and he comes out of Sunday school. He'd never been to Sunday school, and he was probably, 7. And he goes, yeah, Mom, they just told me that I was born. They just told me I was born a sinner. Good job, Mom. And I was like, oh God, here we go. That pretty much sums up my relationship with my son. Good job, Mom.
And you know what? At least he was able to rationalize it and be like, yeah, maybe, okay, maybe I don't agree with that.
Right. Right. I was like, oh, okay. So, all right. Well, I'm excited for both of you to use your voices in this way and to give people some hope and funny. I know it's going to be funny because both of you, I can tell, have good senses of humor. So that's going to be awesome. And the show is Parallel Singlehood, male and female voices. And I'm just really excited that both of you are doing this.
We are excited.
Yeah. Oh my God. Thank you for the opportunity, because we're looking forward to, like you say, sharing tears, sharing laughs, and helping anybody who's going through it right now or who has been there to really try not to be so cynical about it and enjoy life to the fullest, regardless of what your parenting role is.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, thank you both.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, listeners, for tuning in to another episode of Mental Health News Radio.
Sometimes I'm passive aggressive, but never without good intentions. I heat up and act on my emotions.
Thanks so much for listening to Mental Health News Radio. Our podcast can be found on iTunes, Stitcher, and hundreds of other podcast apps, or you can visit our website at mentalhealthnewsradio.com. If you have a question or would like to be a guest, become a podcaster on our network, or join the amazing organizations that help keep us on the air, please email us at info@mhnrnetwork.com. Get ready for that special goodbye from our resident therapy dog, Miles, and a special thanks to Emily Sohn for letting us use her incredible song, Cordial, for our podcast music. Listen to the full song on SoundCloud at emily.sonne.
Don't be surprised when I don't hate on you. After all, we promised we'd be cordial.